another message from God's Word. I want to read special readings here. After the flood is what we're going to talk about. After the flood. We're going to start in the 7th chapter. And verse number 12. There were 3 sources of water. What were the 3 sources? The floodgates of heaven, the springs of the deep, and rain.
Oh, yeah.
And rain. 3 sources of water. And the rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On the very same day that Noah and Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah's wife, and the 3 wives and his sons with them, entered the ark. Now, I studied religions, comparative religions, and I've taught it a lot. We have to stop here for just a moment. And we're going to have to go back in comparative religions. Now, the line of Cain is completely gone, okay? The line of Cain is gone. But the line of Cain has been drowned. They're all dead. But if you're a Mormon, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young said that Ham's wife was a Canaanite. Now, if you go back to the book of Jasher, they were not. These 3 boys, their generations were pure. They were not part Nephilim. They were not. Their DNA was not contaminated by in any way. So there is no body on this side of the ark, this side of the flood, that lives that were descendants of Cain. Cain that killed Abel. They were all killed. They had become very, very wicked. And probably these were the ones that the angels married. They and every beast of its kind, and all the cattle after their kind or species, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, and all sorts of birds. Verse number 15, so they went into the ark, 2 by 2s, all flesh, which had the breath of life in it. They entered into them, male and female, and the Lord Jehovah closed the door behind them. This is a type of the rapture. This is the type of the rapture. The door is closed. 1 Peter 3:18 through 20. The door is closed. No one is going to be saved now. We're going into the tribulation period upon earth. In the days of Noah, it was like the tribulation period that's coming just before the millennium, yet after the rapture. So the Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark, not of the Covenant, but the Ark of Noah was a type of the rapture. It was lifted up from the earth by the waters. Then a flood came upon the earth for 40 days, and the water increased and lifted up the ark so that it rose above the earth, the rapture. Okay? Verse number 20, and the water prevailed 15 cubits high, and the mountains were covered. That's 22.5 feet above every mountain on the earth. Now remember, the mountains and the earth was not the same as it is now. It was as it was then. Now, Sharon and Marilyn, I know you've been out to Shark's Tooth Mountain. And you saw the great ocean floor that was there at one time. Mm-hmm. The earth is not as it was. There are places on the earth that are tall mountains and things that were underwater. You go out here that direction in the north part of the valley, and there is the petrified forest here. And out there you'll find all types of bones from sharks and dinosaurs and all kinds of stuff that were drowned here, 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 before the flood. And all the flesh that moved upon the earth perished, birds and cattle and beasts and every swarming thing that swarms upon the earth, and all mankind. This was a real universal flood. It was not a local flood. Remember that the flood, here is the earth, right there. We'll take this here. Maybe if I can get the cap off of it. This whole thing here is the earth. Here is water over there. Now the earth was completely covered to the height of 22.5 feet above the highest mountain. Okay? And all flesh that moved in the earth perished, and all mankind. Thus he blotted out every living thing that was upon the face of the earth, from man to animals to creeping things, and the birds of the sky, and every blotted out above the earth. Now, you can say, now, well, if there was dinosaurs back then, some of them were over 22.5 feet tall. How long do you think they're going to live up there like that, even if they were at the tallest part of the mountains? They'd starve to death up there. They would all starve to death and then finally drowned. And the water prevailed upon the earth 150 days, approximately 5 months. And God remembered Noah and all the beasts and the cattle, and were with him in the ark. And God caused the wind to pass over the earth, and the water subsided. And also the fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the sky, the floodgates from the oceans in the sky, and the rain from the sky was restrained. Now remember, it had never rained before at this time. Now the whole ecology of the earth is going to change. People lived over 900 years, some of them, and way over 800 years. I mean, some of the youngest ones were 700 years old before the flood. But now mankind is not going to live that long a life. And it's going to happen because of sin and because of the change of the earth. The earth was cursed because of Adam, wasn't it? And now it's going to be cursed again. And the water seceded steadily from the earth, and the end of 150 days the water decreased. And in the 7th month, and the 17th day of the month, the ark rested upon the mountains in Ararat. Sharon, when you were flying over in the Middle East, did you look over there in Turkey and see the top of Mount Ararat with all the snow on it? Yeah, I did. I flew over the Mediterranean, and I looked over there as we were going, trying to dodge bullets. And I could look over there, and I could see, it was not real cloudy at that time, and I could see Mount Ararat way over there with the snow caps on it. And the water decreased steadily until the 5th day, and the tops of the mountains began to appear. And it came about the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent out a raven, and it flew here and there until the water was dried up from the earth. And he sent out one dove from him to see if the water was abated from the face of the land. Now, a crow can live anywhere, can he? A raven, a crow. They are something else. They are everywhere. And they can always find some place to land their foot to, and they'll eat anything. You know, a crow can eat toxins that nothing else can eat. They can pick up a toad and eat a toad. Now, a toad and a frog are different, even though they're of the same type of animal or amphibian. They are different. The toads, their skin secretes a toxin. Now, one year we had a lot of bugs around our place, lots of bugs, and we had a lot of toads. And I got out there, and my toads, I find a toad that was chewed up. And I'd see, who in the world's eating toads? You know, what can eat a toad? And pretty soon one day I saw a raven out there tearing one of my toads all to pieces. Well, I shot him, because you know what? You can eat anything you want on the place there, Raven, Mr. Raven, but you can't eat my toads because they eat all these bugs around here. And so they remembered me too. The ravens are very smart, and the crows are very smart. They remembered me, and when they saw me walk out there with a shotgun or something, they took off. By the way, as we're talking about that, in Europe they're called rooks. And they have these real long shotguns that are tall, because a rook is so smart that when they see you with a rifle, they're going to fly way off beyond your reach. So you have to have a shotgun with a long, long barrel that'll reach them, or else a rifle. So the crow didn't come back, the raven didn't come back, but the dove found no resting place for the sole of his foot, and she returned to him in the ark, and the water was on the surface of all the earth, and he put out his hand and took her in, and brought her into the ark himself. So he waited another 7 days. And by the way, the Bible's full of sevens. 7 is a number of, that's how many days are in a week. And he waited another 7 days, and he sent her out of the ark again. And the dove came back to him toward evening, and behold, in her beak was a freshly picked olive leaf. Remember, back then, the water was all over the earth. Now, the salt water should have killed every living tree. The salt water is bad, but there was a whole lot of fresh water now. A whole lot of fresh water. And this fresh water and these trees began to bloom again. And so the dove came back with an olive leaf in her mouth, so Noah knew that the water was abated from the earth, and he waited yet another 7 days, and he sent the dove out, but she did not return to him again. Now it came about in the 601st year, in the first month, and the first of the month, the water dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the surface of the ground was dried up. The cover's removed, the roof from the ark. And in the 2nd month, and the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry, and Noah spoke, and God spoke to Noah, saying, go out of the ark. Now, go out. They've been in there for a long time. You and your wife and your sons and your sons' wives with you, and bring out every living thing of the flesh that is with you, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly upon the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. Now, everything is going to change. The digestive system of the animals is going to change. Some of them drastically. We're going to have carnivores. We're going to have omnivores now. Before, they didn't eat each other. But now, man could never eat a beast. Noah had never tasted a piece of animal flesh in his life. Never. But something's going to change. Have you looked at the teeth of a lion or a cat or a bear or something? They have canine teeth to rip flesh apart, to hold on to something and to rip flesh apart. We got flat teeth, basically. Flat teeth. Man was a vegetarian when he was created, but now he begins to eat meat. Go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons. Bring out every living thing and let them breed abundantly. Verse 19, and every beast and every creeping thing and every bird and everything that moves upon the earth went out by their families, by their species, from the ark, their species. And Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animal and every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Now he killed some of these animals. Now they had offered sacrifices before, but now he's going to build an altar, and now he's going to offer sacrifices to God. Built an ark, or built an altar, and the Lord smelled the soothing aroma, and the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground, account of man, for the intent of man's heart is evil from his youth, and I will never again destroy every living thing as I have done. Not until the end of time. Over here. God's going to create a new heaven, a new earth over there. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter. Now we got seasons. Now we have seasons. And day and night shall not cease. Now human government is established here too. This is it. We have the flood, now we have human government. human government. And what were they supposed to do? To scatter and multiply, don't build big cities. Genesis 8:15 through 9:7. The failure, they didn't scatter. The judgment was the confusion of language and the division of the earth. The earth was divided in continents now. That's what's going to happen. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the terror of you shall be on every beast of the earth. Why? No animal feared mankind before. The animals didn't fear each other. All the way back in eternity past, when the dinosaurs on the earth, they ate each other, did their things according to what records we have with the animals, archaeological finds and so on. But now here, if any of them existed during this period of time, the flood killed them all. Whatever was there, the flood killed. Now there are still things in the oceans and in the far reaches of the earth that we don't know about. But these terrible animals that were on the other side of the world before Satan destroyed it, and now they're going to begin to eat each other. And man's going to begin to eat animals. The dietary laws have now changed. And the fear of you and the terror of you shall be on every beast of the earth and on every bird of the sky, with everything that creeps upon the ground and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are given. Every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. The world changed. The world has changed now. As I gave the green plant, only you shall not eat flesh with its life. You shall not eat a live animal. And as I look, we watch YouTube a lot. But on the YouTube channel, especially in the Asian countries, they eat live fish. They eat live fish. People, when they went to college, one of the things, the initiations going into college was to swallow goldfish, alive. I don't believe in eating things that are alive. I really don't. And neither does God. Only you shall not eat flesh with its life. That is, its blood. You don't eat the blood. I will require it from your lifeblood. From every beast I will require it, and from every man. From man's brother I will require the life of man. If you killed an animal and shed its blood and drank the blood, you died. It was the death penalty. And if you go over to the law of Moses now, you have the law of Hammurabi and Hammurabi, by the way, the one that goes all the way back to that was in effect before the law of Moses. And you find out there was an eye for eye, a tooth for tooth, a foot for foot, etc., hand for hand. If an animal killed another animal, you were responsible for it. You were responsible for it. If there was a bad bull, you should have eaten him. If he gets out and kills somebody else, you're responsible for that life. Whoever sheds man's blood, by his blood shall be shed, and for the image of God he made man. And as for you, be fruitful and multiply. The death penalty. The death penalty is the foundation of government. And why do you have the death penalty to begin with? Because men kill people. If you kill a man, you do it intentionally. If you do it not in an act of war, but if you do it in vengeance, if you do it by greed, if you just kill a man to take what he has. I remember I worked with a guy named Gerald a long time ago. I was working in the oil fields on a drilling rig, and Gerald went with us. I probably worked for Gerald for 6 months. And all of a sudden, Gerald was no more. He's kind of a likable guy, but he was an alcoholic and evidently a drug addict and an absolute thief and a robber. Now I have another guy named E.G. Ferguson. Now out there on Buck Owens Boulevard, what is Buck Owens Boulevard right now, used to be Pierce Road. And out on Pierce Road there was a bar out there, and the bar was kind of like a bank also. And people would go to that bar and cash their checks. They'd have a drink or something, go on. And I had my friend E.G. when I cashed his check. And when he went outside, Gerald hit him in the head with a tire iron, stabbed him with a knife, and then ran over him with his car. E.G. Ferguson was never normal again. He lived. But his father and mother had to take care of that on. His family broke up and everything. He wasn't normal. He was not. He could walk around, eat, and drink, and take a bath, and go to bed. That was about his life. That was just about it. He was never normal again. He was basically an invalid to a certain extent from that on. He had so much neurological damage from that he could not do anything ever again. His life was basically taken from him with this man that I had worked with. I couldn't hardly believe that I'd worked with this criminal, this thing that would do that. E.G. had been my friend all of my life, as far as I can remember. His family went back to my family all the way to Pauls Valley, Oklahoma in the 1800s. The death penalty. I don't know how long he stayed in prison for that, but he should have been executed for it, to tell you the truth. He meant to kill him. He meant to kill him. If you don't stab somebody, you don't hit him in the head and beat him in the head with a tire iron and then stab him and then run over him with a car, not wanting to kill him. He did everything he could do to kill him. But it was hard to kill. All of these people in the world that kill people. You know, we've got religions that go out and murder people. They murder people in the name of God. I'm going to tell you something. God does not call upon you to murder people in the name of religion. Did you know that? He doesn't do that. Any religion that does that is a false religion. Period. You don't go out and murder people because of religion. You remember who Osama bin Laden was? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden had a lot to do with the 9/11 attack on America. Basically, so did Saudi Arabia and many other people that never were named. But do you know why Osama bin Laden wanted to kill America, why he hated America? Because he said America was an obstacle that stopped the flow of Islam. So America had to be destroyed. The idea is that would go in America, they would send in settlers and they'd take over towns in America. And they would take over voting blocks until they will have 20 or 30 kids if they can. You can have one legal wife in America, but a Muslim can have 4 legal wives and all the concubines he can afford. Osama bin Laden was one of 20-something children. You pretty soon you can raise a voting block that's pretty powerful. You just look at Denmark, look at Sweden, look at the Netherlands, look at England, look at France. And they will riot to the point of death and destruction in the name of religion. The Catholic Church went out with a sword and they conquered the conquered. And the Muslim world took after that and they went out with a sword to conquer in the name of religion. They had no God-spoken edicts to do this, they just did it. The Muslim and the Catholic world fought across the Mediterranean Sea for 1,000 years plus, killing each other in the name of religion. Yet Christians, if you go out into a country, you go out in a country and you become a servant to them. You become a messenger of God. Now, in any Islamic country, you can't go in there basically and preach the gospel. You can't mention the name of Jesus as Savior and the Son of God, or you will be killed. If you convert one of their people from Islam to Christianity, you will be killed and they will be killed, and maybe their whole family. This is ruthless. This is killing and murder. A government without the ability to enact the death penalty is nothing. It's nothing. Slavery, you know, America didn't have to have a civil war to stamp out slavery, but it did, because Abraham Lincoln wanted it. Yet slavery is in America again. Slavery is all over the world. Wherever Islam is, slavery is, because they believe in slavery. They believe in slavery. The only religious group in the world that believe in slavery today. America fought a civil war over slavery, and yet we have it still here. A concubine, 4 legal wives and all the concubines those are sex slaves, people. You go out in the world, and I'm going to tell you a story all the way back from, I'll get this book, I'll tell you where it comes from. This is Islam's own book, The Life of Muhammad, the Apostle of God. And I've read every page in it and marked it all up, and I know what's in that book. And I'll tell you just a little bit about Muhammad, if he existed. Some people think he really didn't. I guarantee you, he wasn't in Mecca where Mecca is. It was probably near Petra is where he was raised. All of the descriptions of Mecca was of Petra, not Mecca. Mecca was not a trade center of the world at that time, but Petra was. Now, Muhammad had a student, Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was an absolute slave of his, and he would give his life, he would put his life in front of Muhammad every time, according to this book. This history, this is the oldest history of Islam there is. This goes before the Quran. In all reality, they say it doesn't, but it does. Abu Bakr had a little girl, Aisha. And Muhammad looked at her with lust from the time she was a little baby. And he looked at her and he said, I want her to be my wife. I'm going to marry her. And of course, Abu Bakr, being the obedient religious servant that he was, said, okay, there she is, she's yours. And they made an agreement, a marriage agreement. They made a marriage agreement when she was 5 years old. She was 5. When she turned 7 years old, Muhammad came to his house one day and he said, it's time for me to consummate my marriage with Aisha. And she was out playing in the backyard with her dolls. And Aisha's own words, that when she came into the house, she went to the bedroom with Muhammad, and here he is, a man with several wives already. But Muhammad he said he had a lust of 1,000 stallions. He had the lust of 1,000 stallions in him. And he had to satisfy his lust. And so he took this little girl in there, and she didn't know anything about marriage or sex or anything, but he consummated the marriage that day when she was 7 years old. She never had any children. She was probably damaged so greatly that she could not have any children. But she was the wife that he died with the night that he died, or the day that he died. He was in her bed with her. She was his favorite wife. She was the only virgin he married. And of course, she was a 7-year-old virgin when he married her. Now today, that's called a pedophile. Now, they have moved her age up now to 8 or 9 years old from 7. But the Imam in Iran, they all want to marry a little girl about 9 years old, like they said Muhammad did. They want to copy Muhammad. They all have these child brides. And sometimes they're so damaged that they can't have any children. Sometimes they die. But this is what they want to do, because this is an example. The Bible doesn't look upon this as a valid religion in all reality. It is an antichrist religion. But the basis of all government is that when you go out and you kill people, killing an infidel in Islam is nothing like killing a dog, because you're called a dog. An infidel is a dog. A kafar, an infidel. Kafar, a dog. So only under Sharia law, which is written in this book, Sharia versus Freedom, the legacy of Islamic totalitarianism. All right, there's another one up here also. I know it's up there. The Guide to the Traveler. The Guide to the Traveler is Sharia law. Under that, they will not obey any law that in any country where they go, they will demand that they are under Sharia law only, because that's the only valid law in the world. And so that wherever they go, they're not going to recognize the government wherever they go. A government to stand had to enact its laws, and the constituents of the government have to obey those laws, or there's penalties for that. They don't want any penalty for whatever they do. They want to be able to have 4 legal wives and all the concubines that they can afford. And of course in America they have their food stamps and Medi-Cal. Marilyn, how many times have you gone into these grocery stores down there where there was one Islamic man and 4 or 5 women with all these grocery bags full of them handing out the stamps, the food stamps to all of them? We are supporting that, and it's not of us. And yet the elderly in America don't have health care and foods and Social Security to even match any of that. Government is upside down. First of all, a government has to enact the death penalty for those that kill people. How many people are being released from prisons that have killed people? How many people are in prisons for 20, 30, 40 years that have murdered more than 1 people, 5 or 10 people sometimes? Mass murders, and yet they're put in prison and they're not executed. The death penalty is a deterrent to crime. The death penalty is the basis and foundation of every government on earth. If you don't do that, if you don't protect your people from the invasion of others, if you don't protect your people from criminals, look how many illegal aliens across the world today, and in America. In America, they come in and they commit all of these laws, and they commit murders, and they just keep putting them out on the street so they can do more of it. There is no law and order. Without law and order, you have no legitimate government. You have destroyed, you have started chaos. Chaos. The foundation of all government is the death penalty and right and wrong. Right and wrong. Our Father, we send this message out today for your honor and glory. As the Muslim world looks for the reliance of the traveler, the Sharia law, we look to your word, to your examples, to your foundations, for your instruction book for mankind. Father, please, as this message goes out, let it honor and glorify you. Please forgive me where I failed you.